Welcome to the second part of the overview of course content video lecture. So here we're going to focus on these three grouped genres: editorials, opinions, correspondence letters, news-related articles, perspectives. They overlap to a certain extent, and they also there's usually more than one text type in each of these categories. So let me go to the next slide and give you some more information on these. Editorials/opinions are similar in nature. Editorials are usually written by the editor of a journal, and opinions can be written by other people, but the editor exploring an opinion on a particular topic. They can be responses to previously published work. They can be responses to current debates in the field. Some editors in an editorial provide an overview of the journal issue in an editorial, or I think we see an example later on where somebody's actually leaving the board of editors and writing a little bit about saying goodbye to the readership and so on. So again, lots of things can happen in editorials and their opinions. Correspondence letters, the second grouped category here, is also twofold in nature. So correspondence can be an invited comment, invited commentary on particular topics. They often can be responses to articles published in previous issues as well, similar to opinion letters. Letters, in addition to though being sort of opinion letters or letters of engaging with previously published piece, letters can also be shorter pieces of original research depending on the journal. I'm going to look at an example from the journal Nature in a second. I'm going to show it to you, the language around it. And then the last group category here are news-related articles, often called perspectives. They can be responses to relevant topics in the news, articles on newsworthy developments in a respective scientific field. We also look at the journal of the American Congress of Cardiology and GACC, and they provide sort of always something published around early career focus. So again, lots of different things can happen in these type of genres around communicating important content to its readership, which can include seasoned scientists, but also younger researchers or early career researchers. So let's look at an example from said Journal of the American College of Cardiology. They list the different article types that they have. They have a state-of-the-art review, a review topic of the week, original investigations, research letters, letters to the editor, and fellows in training and early career pages. So these here are your typical in-red format, right? Whereas these are review articles, usually invited, letters to the editor, people respond to previously published work or other issues, and then what I mentioned, fellows in training and early career pages. And they also have editorial, and what's interesting about JAC, for each original piece of research they publish, they offer an editorial comment, which has been invited by the editor. So you kind of get a review, in a sense, of each newly published piece of research. Here is a description of what I mentioned to you earlier of letters, meaning not a letter to the editor in the traditional sense, but a letter meaning a shorter description of original research. So it says here, letters are short reports of original research focused on an outstanding finding whose importance means that it will be of interest to scientists in other fields. So they're shorter, no more than 4 pages. And then Nature gives you some particular guidance on what kind of language to use and how to present your work. Nature, as you might know, is one of the premier journals in the sciences and has really sees itself as communicating science to a larger public, not just the scientific community in terms of research, other researchers, but the public in general. So you'll find a lot of suggestions and language here around making sure you describe your research in a broader way. And for those of you who are taking the certificate in science communication with us, you will be working with Dr. Pierce on communicating with the public in your last course in the spring semester. So you will see a lot more of this. So next 2 slides, I want to show you some examples of the way that the guide, by the way, the previous slide and these next 2 slides, the previous 2 slides, and this slide and the next slide come from the author guidelines or review guidelines for author review, author guidelines, guide for authors. They call different things, but it's really important when you're planning to publish in a journal to read those very carefully because they really give some good suggestions. Some are more detailed, some are less, but they always have some good information. And they always describe the type of journal, the type of genres, the type of articles, the type of text that they're publishing. So in neuroscience also, I just want to show this to you, letters to the editor. Again, we welcome readers to submit formal comments on the content of articles published in neuroscience, and it's about constructive scientific remarks. So you can write a letter to the editor about something that was previously published. Now, they also provide these commentaries, which are comments on each original piece of research published in each issue, but they usually invited. Then the last genre from neuroscience I wanted to focus on is what this journal calls perspectives, and these are invited commentaries on current developments and trends in neuroscience research or public activities. So again, these are things that are really important to this particular field, and they're invited, and it's called perspectives. So perspectives might mean something else in a different journal, but this is most likely what it will be, something like this. So the last slide, I'm going to take you through a few websites, table of contents of 3 different journals: Journal of Public Health, Journal of American College of Cardiology, JACC, and also of Cell. And I want to focus on Journal of Public Health on editorial and perspectives. So let me go there with you. Let's see. There we go. It is opening. So here, this is the most current issue, June 2019, as I was recording this. You see first comes the editorial, and this is interesting because if you click on it, passing the baton, let's see if it opens it up for me. There we go. So after 5 fun-filled years, we are passing the baton to new editors. So these editors have done this for 5 years, so now they're reflecting back on these 5 years and passing, again, setting the framework for the next generation of editors. You see something like this in editorials frequently in journals as well. And then Journal of Public Health divides its original research into different categories. You have wider determinants online only. We see this more and more today in publishing, that some articles are only published online. You have the field of epidemiology, lots of articles here. So if you click on abstract, you'll see background, methods, results, conclusion. So as I said earlier, background can be sort of a short version for introduction, or a different way to say introduction, and conclusion has a lot to do with the discussion as well. We'll talk about this. I'll talk about this in greater detail when we look at each of these sections over the next few modules, so keep it in mind. Again, online only. Behavioral factors is another category of original research. And then you have interventions, preventative, online only, intervention services, another category of original research. You have methods, which is pretty interesting as well. So again, the focus here is on methods. Up again. And then here's perspectives. So if I click on the abstract of perspectives, you'll see this does not follow the typical IMRAD kind of format of original empirical research. So this is a piece that's more of a evaluative piece. And it's like a review in that sense. And then you have some correspondence here. And then you have erratum, or errata means mistakes that are being corrected that were in a previously published issue. All right, so that's so much about the Journal of Public Health. Let's look at JACC again, Journal of American College of Cardiology. I want to focus on the table of contents with you and show you a few things here. Before we look at the table of contents, there's one thing that I really like about this. So you have here, you have an audio summary of this issue by the editor-in-chief, Valentin Fuster. And so if you click on, you can actually hear him talk and summarize the issue. I'm not going to take you through like just 30 minutes of it. If you want to take a look at this, I encourage you to take, to kind of look for the JACC journal. Actually, I'll put a link to this particular issue in the suggested resources, so you can take a look at it if you wanted to listen to the audio. It's really interesting to hear the editor-in-chief sort of summarize what's happening in this particular issue. So let me go back to the actual table of contents, which I'm going to download the PDF here briefly. So this is what the table of contents looks like for this particular number of JACC. You'll see here is the first surgery doesn't improve survival. You'll see the first article, and then you see the editorial comment. right beneath it here with the red square. So each of the original pieces of research here actually has editorial comment attached to it. So we do go through here. Again, additional content. Additional content usually means stuff that is not included in the article. You wouldn't get it in the print version. And then you have the present and the future. You have a review topic of the week. So you have a review article. You have a scientific expert panel discussing current issues relevant to this field. Then you have the fellows in training and early career page. You have the editors page. And you have letters that were written to the journal with some replies as well. No, letters, sorry. These letters are not letters written to them. These are letters, these are actually pieces of original research as well. Let me see if I can pull them up here. Go on the online version. So here you have, you see how much shorter this piece is than a regular research article. So again, letters in this sense are shorter empirical pieces of empirical research, articles of empirical based on empirical research that are published compared to the larger research articles that are much longer. And okay, so you have these here, and then again correction page. So enough of JAC. We'll go to a last one, Cell, very famous journal in microbiology. You'll have here, actually I want to show you this particular article, which is superpowered biology. I'll link to this article as well because it's really interesting. It's beautifully written and really about how to make science come alive. And it's almost sort of like a commentary on how science is depicted, and it makes some connections with popular culture, which is always something that's close to my heart. Anyway, if you have a chance to look at it, it's a kind of like a they call it leading edge, and so it's a discussion. So it's more of a kind of a commentary. And then there's some mini reviews here. Then you have the research articles. Under articles, like a traditional IMRAD empirical stuff. Most of the journals will have, this is the dominant part of each scientific journal. Then you also have a research article on theory. So I didn't focus too much in this class on theoretical pieces, but you will have in some fields also some articles dealing more with theory. And here is just a couple of just to show you a little bit what it would look like. Okay, so it's not an IMRAD article with empirical research, but based on some theoretical musings, some theoretical analyses, or an analysis of a theory that's relevant to this particular field. And then you have some more research articles here. So again, that's Cell for you. So you see each journal is structured a little differently, but they do a lot of things in similar ways. And most importantly, the IMRAD genre, the empirical research, is really centered to all of them, in addition to commentaries, review articles, letters to the editor, and any other types of less empirically based type of publications, including letters, of course, being shorter versions of additional research articles. So keep it in mind as you look around some of the scientific publications that you read on a regular basis or are starting to read on a regular basis. And, all right, and we'll see each other, or hear me in the next video that will review a little bit the writing assignments for this course.